This is the Extra Point Podcast. During this podcast, we will dive deeper into our Sunday teaching and share practical next steps for your faith journey. Now, let's kick off the Extra Point.
Hey, welcome to the Extra Point. I'm Cheryl Ross, the Next Steps in Discipleship pastor here at Southridge Church, and I'm with Scott Beha, our lead pastor. And before I go any further, I just want to make sure that if you haven't liked or subscribed to this podcast, that you do so. That way you don't miss out on any new content. This Sunday, we kicked off a new series called Red Letters. Pastor Scott, will you share with us just a little bit about what the series is about and what we can expect throughout it?
Yeah, so this series is going to just come from the teachings of Jesus that are not in the Sermon on the Mount. That's why I wanted to call the series the Sermon Not on the Mount, but I got outvoted because we did a series in 2020 called Upside Down that's 20 parts through the Sermon on the Mount. So we're going to do the other teachings of Jesus, or some of the other teachings of Jesus, outside of the Sermon on the Mount content. That's what we're going to do for the next 5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. I think it's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Until Mother's Day. Mother's Day, we start something new.
So it would be, 4 more weeks.
4 more weeks.
5 weeks total.
5 total. Boom.
There you go. Awesome. Well, this Sunday you talked about Jesus being Lord over the Sabbath and about how, we should never allow anything to get in the way of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit more about that and about how we can really see that play out in our lives.
Yeah. I wrestled with this all last week because this is a type of message that our current cultural climate wants to jump on and react one of 2 ways. Neither one is helpful. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have to manage tensions in the Christian faith rather than just trying to get nice and easy answers. So I'm trying to talk about how we should not let anything stand in the way of us loving and caring for and meeting the needs of other people. Mm-hmm. And that means absolutely anything. However, some people will hear that message and go, oh, Jesus, see, what he came to do is he threw off all the restraints, right? He was just about love. It's just all love. It's like, no, if you only listen to one sermon and get out of it what you're looking for, that may be the false conclusion that you come to. Mm-hmm. Because you still have to, and that's what I mentioned multiple times, when Jesus comes and says, listen, I'm Lord over the Sabbath, for me, compassion is more important than ritual. He wasn't saying that the Sabbath didn't have a place. Right. He wasn't saying that the Sabbath was bad. He was just saying that the way that it was being interpreted and how it was being enforced was inconsistent with the kingdom values that he was bringing. Right, so he is not setting aside, and I'll also argue if you want to try to go, oh, then Jesus doesn't have any right and wrong. I'll also argue that the Sabbath deal was not we're not dealing with morality in that we're not saying people that don't rest one day of the week are evil. Right, so you can't conflate what he's doing with the Sabbath here and you go, oh, well, that must mean murder's okay then because he set the law aside. No, we're not doing that here. So you have to manage that tension because some people will come away with a message, and this is the tension I managed all last week. Some people are going to hear this and go, yeah, let's just love everyone, man. That's just what it is. Mm-hmm. And then other people will get really afraid of a message like this because they'll think that's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And they'll go, oh, no. What about morality? What about morality? What about right and wrong? What about this group of people over here? If you start talking about love, they think acceptance. I can't help the fact that our culture has screwed all of this up, and we no longer know how to manage tension. Mm-hmm. It's both. There should be absolutely nothing that keeps you from meeting the needs of someone. Like, Jesus didn't let what day of the week it was, what other people thought about it, felt about it, what they was taught about it. Nothing. He didn't let any of that stand in the way of him healing or letting his hungry disciples eat. He didn't let anything stand in the way. He didn't go, well, they are breaking the law. No. Or there was nothing. Well, they don't have it all together. No, there was nothing that he let stand in the way. That is the tension that has to be managed, right? So, if someone goes, well, we have a person in our life that they're living in a same-sex relationship, and we just kind of we don't want anything to do with them. Okay, allowing them to be part of your life and loving them is not a blanket acceptance of their lifestyle.
Well,
right?
and it's an acceptance of who they are, but not
Yes,
their it's not agreement of how they're living.
Exactly.
And we get those confused all the time, where we think acceptance equals agreement, and we got to understand that there's a difference in those things.
And that is the one community that this always gets messed up with.
Yes.
That like it's that alternate sexual lifestyle community that this is the issue. That people go, well, you either have to accept them or condemn them. It's like, no, that's not true whatsoever, because we can't treat that like it's any different than anything else, right? Like, if our loving people from that community is our acceptance of it, then by the same logic, then we are all for drug addiction here at Southridge Church.
Right.
Because we invite the ladies of Recovery Point to come up here and we show them love no matter who they are.
Yeah.
It's a nonsense way of looking at the world. We've only got there because people are trying to find ways to excuse that lifestyle while maintaining their Christian core. Again, it's a tension that has to be managed. It's not something that you can resolve, right? So those are the two really unhelpful ways that people choose to try to handle this sort of topic when you start talking about love. One goes all the way to the left, one goes all the way to the right. Neither one is going to be helpful, because it's always in the messy middle where Jesus is doing his work in people's lives. It's right there where the tension can't be managed, where you go, okay, let's say a family moves in at the end of your street, and you know that they came to America illegally. They broke the law. Does that remove your right to help them if they were to need a cup of sugar or a glass of water just because they broke the law? And I'm not saying that breaking the law is okay.
Right.
I'm just saying, are you telling me that Jesus is standing on the street corner going, I'm not dealing with you because you came here the wrong way. You didn't follow the rules. You are a law. No, you're not the judge and jury of whether or not how they came to be where they are. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be certain laws and processes and I'm not saying that. Jesus isn't saying that. He's saying there cannot be anything that gets in the way of you loving that person. If God has put a person that has come to the country through a immigration policy that you don't agree with, if God has put that person in your path, you still have an obligation to love, whether or not you agree with the legality of their current living situation. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is like you don't just get to go, oh, well, that person's an addict. They got themselves into that situation. Why should I have to help them? They're the ones that chose to take drugs. They're the ones that chose to drink themselves into that situation. Why should I have to help them? If God's putting them in your path, you're called to help them. And the parallel is, when God dealt with us, when God showed us love, when God came to have a relationship with us, he didn't tell us that we had to have it all together, that we had to be squeaky clean to get his love and his grace for him to meet our needs, for him to be there for us. So we can't turn around and do that to someone else. We can deal with all the other issues at a different time. Like, we can have a separate conversation about morality and ethics and what's law and what's not law and all this stuff. All we're talking about yesterday or on Sunday was there's no excuse not to love somebody no matter who they are.
Right.
Like, you can even get away from all the extreme examples that I used in the sermon and that I've used today. Okay, I'm a baseball coach. There's some kids that I've coached over the last 5 years that I'm telling you, I cannot sit in the dugout with them for 3 minutes. I have to walk away. Just because they're obnoxious does not give me a right not to love them.
Right.
That's just, hey, that person over there, maybe they're not your type of person, right? Maybe they're a gossip, or maybe they're just, whatever their issue is. People got all kinds of issues. That's not your excuse not to love them. Right. It's just not. There's nothing. Like, so we can go like really extreme examples of certain lifestyles and immigration issues, or we could go just like people that have like character flaws that I'm like, gosh, man, I cannot stand to listen to you talk.
Yeah.
There can be nothing that stands in the way of us loving and meeting the needs of other person. That's what Jesus is doing here. Because his examples that he uses, like he tells the story of David and his companions when they're on the run.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, listen, there's an authority that goes beyond the authority that you all are claiming, and that's what sets the precedence for this, is that Jesus goes, no, there's an authority beyond the temple. There's an authority that rests within him as the Son of Man from Daniel 7, that if he says that the priority is compassion over what day of the week it is, then that's what's going to be followed.
Right.
Jesus wasn't sitting there going, hey, you should break the Sabbath just because. You should not do. He was just going, look, you have added additional things to what God has said. There's a hypocrisy in that's allowing you to loophole and get away from the thing that God loves the most, which is people. And you just can't do that. Like I had the example in my opener, if a customer service rep doesn't service the customer, they are not doing their job. And as a Christian, if you are not loving without limits, you are not doing your job.
Yeah, very good. You ended with the idea that, Jesus was willing to fight for the things that really mattered. And that's what we should be doing too. Too often we get so caught up in those little minute politics or things, ideas or of what it could be or what it could mean or whatever, that we forget what really matters. And I think that's probably the tension and the issue that we need to realize that hey, what really matters here in this situation with these people, with the person that's put in my path with this thing. Yes, they might live a different lifestyle. They may have done something we don't agree with or don't think it's okay, but what really matters in this is the way that I choose to treat them and react to them. So what can we expect next week? You know yet?
I don't fully know. I was initially thinking the parable of the sower. However, I'm also thinking, because we're recording this on Monday, there's an eclipse happening today that everyone's really up in their feelings about, and all the social media experts and Instagram prophets are out there just throwing a bunch of nonsense out. I did think it might be fun to revisit Matthew 24 this Sunday and talk about the things that aren't actually the signs of the times that people think are the signs of the times. Or talk about the sign of Jonah that's mentioned, because that's the one that everyone keeps bringing up because of the eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's going to be an X right across America because God's mad at America between the 2017 eclipse and this eclipse. And it's going right through a town called Nineveh. That's the sign of Jonah. It's like, oh, my gosh. You can make the Bible say whatever you want, I guess. But it's going to be too late to get this out before the eclipse happens, because this comes out on Monday. But here's my little soapbox on that. If you listen to someone that made any predictions about the eclipse that didn't come true, you should stop listening to them about absolutely everything. That makes them a false prophet.
Good.
So I may go and have some fun, because I love talking about eschatology and the end times. I may go do that, or I may do the parable of the sower, or I might do the sign of Jonah. I don't know. There's so much good stuff. That's why I like these really open-ended type series, because we could just let the Lord and whatever's going on in the world and the Lord and everything marry up and go, all right, let's do that this week. So
awesome.
Something like that.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to being back here again next week from whatever you decide to teach on, whatever the Lord leads you, with more practical next steps for your faith journey. But for this week, remember to fight for what really matters and to allow nothing to stand in your way of doing the right thing.
Thanks for tuning in to The Extra Point. Be sure to subscribe to the Southridge Church podcast and tune in every Wednesday for another episode of The Extra Point.